Olds Community TV Special Report. A conversation with Wade Bearchell, who is seeking the nomination as PC Alberta Party candidate for the Olds-Didsbury-Three Hills constituency.
Yeah, we've been in Olds now for over 12 years, and we came here, I took over the job as the head professional here at the Olds Golf Club, and then a couple years into that, moved into the manager role. So I was the head professional, the manager, which I've been now for over 10 years. We came from Edmonton, where I was a golf professional there for 8 years, and I graduated from the University of Alberta with a commerce degree in 1991. Always had an interest in politics at the university level, and then as we started to have children and move into my career and start building this golf club, maybe a little bit less political. As things became more comfortable for me over time here at the golf club, I had it set up the way I wanted. I really started looking at getting back into the, I had done some volunteer work in the community as well with Olds Minor Hockey as the president of that and some other things, but started looking at the politics side of it and went and ran for town council in 2010. Finished I'm in the year and a half into my second term as a town councillor. Quite enjoyed it. In the back of my mind when I chose to run for town council, this was in the back of my mind. If I enjoyed it, you know, if I was able to be successful in that, be able to work with other people, I would look at potentially looking at a provincial political party role as an MLA. When throughout the process, we, a couple of years ago, we elected a Wild Rose MLA, and over the last couple of years, I've noticed, and probably naively so, that having a Wild Rose MLA and obviously in a conservative government is really. You don't get invited to the table, you're not there, you're not part of the decisions, and really you're effectively shut out of anything. I mean, and I was so disappointed in that, and it was hard to affect any change. We had a leader at the time in Alison Redford that was, everybody was quite upset at, and then as things became worse and worse and worse, really, really discouraged about everything. And so with the advent of Jim Prentice coming along, it was such a breath of fresh air. I was at the AUMA conference, which is the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association conference, which we attend every year as town councillors. And I got an opportunity to listen to Premier Prentice, and I thought, this is a person I can believe in. He gets it. He understands. He's willing to change a lot of the things that have been going on in the PC party for years. You know, you can only look at a man and get a gut feeling over what this is gonna, or what kind of person he's gonna be. And I had a really good feeling, so I decided to pursue. I started to pursue more into what's involved in becoming an MLA. I talked to one of my council colleagues, and the first conversation I had was, what do you think about me pursuing the PC nomination? And she at that time. Said, you know what, I believe it's your time. You know, you're 46 years old, you've done 4.5 years on town council, you're a good communicator, people believe in you, particularly in this area, because of what you've done at the Olds Golf Club. You've run a good business, you're a straight shooter, you let people know your opinion, but you're respectful and you listen to others. And that's what I've heard a lot is the feedback that I've had, which, they're nice, kind words, but, the people believe them, and I've heard it over and over. So from that standpoint, I was thinking, okay, am I able to balance my family and my career as well as look to this PC nomination? And, in talks with my wife and my kids and people in town that, the influencers in our community and outside of our community, in the whole constituency, again, were very encouraging and thought I brought enough of the skills to pursue this. So their advice was, a couple of the PC people that I knew, was to go see Jim Prentice at the PC convention in Banff. So I went down to Banff, and I listened to the Premier again and got a bit of a sense as to, what it was all about. And got to hear his words again and just watch how engaging he was with people. Very similar message to AUMA, under new management. Basically, up to this point, I understand a lot of the things that have happened are low-hanging fruit. At that time, oil wasn't in the position that it is now, so revenues weren't too bad. But, getting rid of the planes and doing some of those things were some of the easy things, but he was willing to do it, and he did it right at the get-go. Now we have a situation with energy. Oil is, down to unprecedented levels I haven't seen in many, many years. So it's a difficult time to manage. But again, Jim Prentice looks like the person that we need for this. And I think people in the talks that I've had, even though they're discouraged with politics, are still ready for or encouraged about a man like Jim Prentice who's looks like he has the leadership skills to take us forward. So then, woke up one morning and eight and then 9 Wildrose MLAs across the floor, and I hadn't quite made the announcement of my intention to run for the nomination, but nobody knew, and it was difficult to find out information as to whether or not these people were going to be guaranteed nominations, which would have upset the rank and file members of the PC party, and it did. But a lot of the backdoor politicking happened, and at the end the PC party accepted these people, but they did not guarantee their nominations. So that was good for me at that time. It was a little bit more anger, a little bit more pushing of me to come out as the nominee to announce my intentions. So that was good, and good for me. And I came out and I made the announcement, and it's been tremendous ever since. And a big part of it is, the anger over what happened. And I understand that, but I'm not going to focus my campaign or anything that I do on that negativity and that anger. I don't think I think it's important that we move on and we look to getting things done. So moving forward with, why am I wanting to, what am I going to do for Olds? Well, basically at the end of the day, you'd be fairly naive to believe that I'm going to go down or anyone's going to go down to Edmonton and start affecting a whole bunch of change. But you need to make the step, and you need to be at the table. So my intention is to work very hard for this constituency, learn to understand what's important to the people of Three Hills, the people of Bicycle and Crossfield, and all the points in between, Water Valley, Cremona, and of course Olds. Find out what's really important to them. We have issues. Every community has infrastructure issues. So we rely on MSI funding for grants in order to fix our streets and what's underneath the streets, water and sewer and everything, our arenas where we recreate, pools, things like that. It's a very difficult, it's a funding model they've used for years, which is coming to an end. That's going to be a big discussion. We've had, I was quite disappointed as a town councillor and a citizen to see what's happened on our highway intersections, 2A and 27, for example, and our overpass, particularly, not necessarily even as how they function, but how unsafe they are. And another big one, and these I realize are fairly old-centric, if there's such a thing, but how the children crossing and the young people crossing to go to Olds College and to going to our CLC and our Olds High School. That's a big problem that I've noticed. Since we've been had an MLA that's not a sitting member of government, that nothing happens, and we're putting our citizens at risk. And nothing's happening. So I think we need to be at the table, and it's a big reason why I'm running for the PC party. And we're going to have issues all through our constituency. Every community has these problems, whether it's infrastructure or safety or any other healthcare. These are all the big major issues. And we need somebody down there fighting for our constituency and at the table, not in the background, not being heard. And, so people can protest, vote, and I understand that with politics, a lot of times you get angry and you want to protest in some way. Really and truly, we've got a great premier. We can get behind him. And I think that if we're at the table, Olds can get back to getting some of these really, really important things accomplished. And all our other communities in this constituency, we need to get them get these things accomplished. I know in the rural areas, you look at land use or land rights. Those are very important to a lot of people. it's important to us all. But those issues need to be addressed. It seems that the Premier has made those, the land rights a really important part of his platform. So I'd be interested to know more about that and how he's going to achieve that. So, those are some of the things that are the reason why I'm running. And I believe it's my time. I think if not me, who? I've proven myself as a counselor, as a business person, as a community member and a volunteer, and I'm looking for a time, I'm at a time in my life where between me and my family, we can do some important things. My children are teenagers now, so they're a little bit more self-sufficient. They're not looking for dad to hang around and do everything with them, and my wife's on board. We're willing to work together to make this happen, and ideally, I'm hoping that I earn the nomination, and then and work hard to earn the trust of people so that Olds-Didsbury-Three Hills riding can again be a progressive Conservative riding. Right now, you're looking at trying to reach as many people as you can in order to get them to show up to the nomination vote. They have to be PC of Alberta members, so you have to go online to pcalberta.org and purchase a membership, and you can purchase them. It doesn't mean you're now you're committed to the PC party. You can, I can buy a Wild Rose membership or a New Democratic membership, whatever party I choose, and that allows me to vote in the nomination. The nomination is a different animal than the election, because there's that $10 card or whatever every party charges. The PCL party charges $10 for you to purchase a membership, and you can just go online and do that, or you can purchase it at the election headquarters, or when you go to vote, they'll have a table there and you can buy it. The nomination process here, basically they formed a nomination committee at the AGM here last week. And then they've announced that the government is going to announce that they want to have some constituencies have had their nomination date set, which I believe is roughly the 3rd and 4th week of February. Olds will be a little bit after that. Excuse me. Towards the end of February or first week of March is when we will see the nomination election. And in that time, I'm out reaching out to people. Not everybody wants to sit and talk about politics, and I don't necessarily want them to have them running away from me because they know I'm coming to look for a $10 to get them to sell them a card or get them to vote for me. But, there's going to be people that are support or want to talk about it, and there's a lot of people in our community that are behind me. The difficult part or the challenge is getting them to go from, yes, I support you, to purchasing a membership and showing up in whatever community they decide to have the election in the last one, and there was a Three Hills and Didsbury, and we'll know that here as soon as the committee's done doing their work. But it's a difficult thing because we don't get a lot of people that vote in elections anymore, which is very sad when you consider that people in other countries give up their lives to vote. Which is sad. I guess it speaks a little bit to the world that we live in. But the nomination would be even less so because you have people that have to be engaged in the party, so to speak, and some people are turned off by that, or they just don't understand it. And if you don't understand it, like anything, you become, I guess, a little bit ignorant or disengaged to the whole process. And I've been one throughout my life, through my father and mother, about being somewhat engaged in the political process and making sure that I voted. It was important to my dad, and he drilled it into me that you need to vote. It's it's a right, and you need to do that. So as we go, there may be some people in our community or in the constituency that decide that they want to run for the nomination. We haven't seen that yet. Currently, I'm the only person that's come out early and said that, and in the end here in the next couple of weeks, we'll see, I guess, as to how many people. And then after that nomination is finished, then we'll look to the Premier may call an election for this spring, or it could be next spring. By all accounts, word on the street is we may be looking at a provincial election this spring. So if I was the nominee, then I'd be the candidate for the PC party, and then there'd be however many parties, Wildrose, New Democrat, Liberal, down the line. And we would face off in the election. So that's the basic process of it. The election is a lot of work, and then everybody has to kind of, right now we're all in our little corners, even though I'm the only one that's come out. I mean, the current MLA may have his supporters, and there may be some people that want to come out that are kind of circling the wagons and having their supporters. But once that nomination is over, we'll come together as a team, and in order to try to have this riding represented by a PC, make it a PC riding again. And that's my hope. If everything goes my way or our way, that's the way it's going to end up. The Wildrose Party gained footing not because of the policies and maybe the constitution as it was laid out of the PC party, I believe. I believe it gained traction because of real fundamental lack of leadership at the PC party. And people were angry and they weren't being heard. And, this is as long as I can remember, Alberta has been a progressive conservative province. And we've had some great leaders. And we've had some leaders that aren't very good. What people really started to see was dishonesty, not just poor leadership, but dishonesty and entitlement. And that really, really bothers people, particularly rural voters. And how you break down what makes someone in a city vote different, and why maybe they're leaning a little bit more to the left, maybe to a Liberal or New Democrat, which you see sometimes in Edmonton, in different communities. Different constituencies will elect somebody that's quite a bit left-leaning, perhaps than the rest of the province. I don't necessarily know why. It may be culture, it may be ethnicity, it may be the fact that some of these people are more working class than white collar. I don't necessarily know, but I know that blue collar people in rural Alberta are used to rolling up their sleeves and getting to work, whether that's through agricultural, oil, or just small business, and they really respect fiscal conservatives because they realize that throwing money after things isn't really a great way to run your business, and that's what they value. So we've seen that in this riding in particular. Olds has always sort of bucked the trend. I mean, Olds is not an easy riding. The Olds-Three Hills Didsbury constituency, and I want to throw Crossfield in there. It's a big part of it now. It wasn't years ago, but it is part of it now, and all the ones in between. They they're hard to peg because they've been very conservative. There's different, and this riding is quite different. The folks that live out east are generally a lot more conservative maybe than the people in Olds as far as some of their values, and you need to reach out to them. And again, some of the people that maybe are closer to Calgary might be a little bit more urban minded, but you need to reach out to them, and you need to understand that I think in this constituency in particular, we all value a lot of the same things. Might not be always on the same page, but for the most part, we value the same things. And the biggest one at the end of the day, I believe, is honesty and integrity. And we decided in the last election to vote Wildrose, and I couldn't blame anybody that voted Wildrose, because I was watching the same thing and I was so disappointed and felt powerless to change anything. Because when you see the leader, the ineptitude of a leader, or the entitlement, or the lack of honesty in your leader, it's hard to become engaged in that, and you pull back and you do what you can. And in our case, we're overwhelmingly voted for the Wildrose Party. But we've got a great leader now. We realized in that protest situation that probably wasn't the best thing for Olds, but Olds-Didsbury-Three Hills. But I was proud that this constituency stood up at the time and said, wait a minute here, this isn't right. And we did, and we're leaders in that way. And that was great. But now we've got a great leader in Jim Prentice, and we have to look to getting back to the table, getting back to conservative values and principles and fiscal responsibility, and getting back at the table so that we can get some of our, we can be heard down in Edmonton, or up in Edmonton, I guess. So, you know, that, I hope that explains it, Dean. I really think that that's the way I feel about it.
Olds Community TV, your go-to channel for news and information in Olds, Alberta.